Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Shanna, the MD Queen, and tonight I have a very special guest for us and a very special live. As you know, last week I received the Pfizer vaccine and I vlogged about it and I got some really interesting, and so I wanted to come on here with a community leader, Brother Chamikas. And so we're just waiting for Brother Chamikas to join. Hi guys, thanks everyone so far that's joined on. There he is. Perfect.
Hey, how are you?
Hi. Brother
How's my
Chamikas
sister?
is now here. Oh no problem. I'm so glad that you're here right now. So let me,
I'm
as I
glad to
said,
be
let me
here.
go ahead and introduce you properly because
Okay,
he's
okay.
done a lot. It
Do your
deserves to
thing.
be known. It deserves to be known. Okay.
I
So
appreciate you.
Brother Chamikas Muhammad, born in Flint, Michigan, affectionately known as Brother Chamikas. In July of 2015, he became the steering committee chair for the Phoenix Local Organizing Committee for Justice, Justice or Else, tasked first with helping and directing the organizing efforts locally to support the 20th anniversary of the Million Man March under the leadership of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. After the successful gathering of the 10-10-15, his role would turn to organizing the 10 governmental ministries of the Justice or Else movement, designed to establish our independence as a people, and that is work that he is still a part of today. And so Brother Chamikas is someone that I've known in the community, like a very strong brother. And one of the things that when asking around after I received the vaccine, was that you weren't necessarily for the vaccine, and we'll get
Right.
into that. And so as a Black woman that does describe herself as being pro-Black and in healthcare, and especially one going into medicine, and it's kind of, right now I'm kind of struggling between making sure that that I'm not doing anything that's damaging to my community, but I also want to represent the healthcare community and show that there are efforts being made not only to increase diversity in healthcare and medicine, but to right some of those wrongs and injustices that were done. And I think Brother Chamikas is very knowledgeable, and I would love to have this conversation about the vaccine, about Black people in medicine and healthcare, and can we really repair the damage that was done in this country? And it's very unfortunate. And so without further ado, I will let Brother Chamikas go ahead.
So first, I want to thank you for allowing me to be on the show with you. It was very interesting because you're the first person that I know that has actually taken the vaccine, at least that's made it public. And I watched your story, and I talked to Brother Ali, my good brother, about your story, and my wife about your story. And when we didn't see an update on how you were doing, she asked me the question. She said, "Have you heard from Shanna?" She asked me, and then I said no, and I kind of went about my way. And she asked me again a little while later. She said, "Have you heard from the sister?" I said no. So I reached out to you, and that's how we end up on this show together. Because of course, I don't like the term, but just for the audience, I'm an anti-vaxxer. That's the title. But it's not that we're anti-vaccination. I am anti-poison. I am anti-toxic. I am anti-experimentation in the name of vaccination. So, I think it's a very critical conversation to have because this country's history, as it relates to our people, it's been horrible. It's really been tragic. And the medical profession, and we'll get into it, and the way that they've treated Black people, and I really can't confine it to America. It's been a worldwide systemic problem. So, I'm very happy to be on your show. I'm ready to get into this conversation and really just talk about what we're looking at and give my perspective on the research that I've been doing and what we should do going forward. So I appreciate you having me on the show, my sister Shanna, and I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Yes, so we could go ahead and get started with talking about just why you consider yourself anti-vaccine, especially in wake of the COVID-19 vaccine. I guess I can start by giving a little bit about why I took it and why I felt comfortable taking it, especially as someone that works in healthcare and has seen some of the traumas, a lot of the traumas that have come up from the COVID-19, SARS-CoV-19 disease and what it's done to the community, especially communities of color out here. I felt compelled to take it to protect myself and also the people around me and my family members. And I also, as a research assistant, had the opportunity to work on a COVID vaccine trial. Not the same one, but because I had that experience on the backhand side of the research, knowing that I've read these protocols, I know what the vaccine is, I know how it's made, it's an mRNA vaccine, and how the actual science behind it, and knowing that it's not just given to Black people and a lot of the different things that I've heard. Yes, there's a lot of research that's yet to be done, but I felt comfortable taking that chance because ultimately, as we've seen, there's a lot out there already that can hurt us. I mean, the police are killing us. So we can't really necessarily say that we're not going to take a vaccine that could allow us to get back to normal, that could allow us to save more people. And they did test it on animals. It was after a phase 3 trial. And so I think some of that is not knowing the research methods taken. Yes, it was done very quickly, but I think that with modern science, you can be able to do something quickly and effectively, and it has been proven effective. And I think that I trust the scientific community as someone that is going into healthcare, that's going to be a physician. I think that I can't say that I don't trust modern medicine, but at the same time, I do understand the point of view of our community, because I mean, Tuskegee, like, things have happened. We've done these things, and that's something I have to put on my shoulders as someone that represents the medical community as well.
Okay, so I want to go back. I want to go all the way back. I think that it's critical that we understand the difference between conspiracy theory as its label and people who understand that there has been a conspiracy that's been executed on us as a people. I think that's very important to understand. Because when you understand that, then there's a question that arises. And I say this for all of our brothers and sisters who are in the medical community, because nurses, doctors, healthcare workers, particularly Black healthcare workers, our sister, Kitty, I hate to shorten her name, but I don't want to mispronounce her name, who worked on this, I'm not going to call it a vaccination, on this intervention. These are Black people. And there's a huge effort, Dr. Fauci, there's a huge effort in this country to get Black people to take this intervention. I'm not going to call it a vaccination because, as you know, as one who's in the medical profession, that though that label is there, it's still in the experimental stage. And I don't think it's a question of whether or not modern medicine can produce faster. The question is, why is it that the average vaccination takes 5 to 20 years to come to market? That's a very important question, as opposed to this intervention that's come to market in less than a year. There was a news article you and your audience can go look it up. A few months back, there were 2 French doctors that came under fire because they suggested, which is the norm, that they take this quote unquote vaccination into the continent of Africa and begin to experiment in the continent of Africa on vaccinating the people there. Well, there was an outcry in Africa, there was an outcry in the world, and Africa rejected that notion. They said, no, you're not going to experiment on us. So they had to backtrack. But what I find it very interesting is that when they didn't have the opportunity to experiment with this intervention on the continent of Africa, now the attention has shifted. And the attention of this intervention is now on Black people in the United States of America who have become very trusting. Now, for our medical professionals, study the Tuskegee experiment, not just from the standpoint of the lack of treatment, but how were they able to put this experiment off over on our people. They went to the Black medical community. They went to the ministers. They went to the leaders in the community at the time to convince the leaders in the community, to convince our people to open themselves up for this experimentation. So the Black medical professional, the nurses, the doctors have to be careful, because what is happening, remember Colin Powell, I know this may seem a little off subject, but Colin Powell was put in front of the world, a Black man, to advocate for weapons of mass destruction so that we could go, the United States could go into Iraq and bomb Iraq. Later, it was found out that there were no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. It was a lie. So when we look at the Black face that's being put on this experimentation, we have to be very careful that we are not allowing ourselves, allowing our medical professional to put their face on something that is actually will be found out years down the line to be deadly. This is the history of experimentation in the medical profession as it relates to our community. And if this is the history, then we wouldn't be wise to ignore the history and to put it in the context that you have put it in. Not only have we are we dealing with the potential for them to try the same experiment and death experiments on us that they did with the Tuskegee experiment, that they did with the polio vaccination, that they did in Africa, that they did in Guatemala and Central and South America, and that they did in the South. But we are actually looking at now that there's a possibility that we are part or becoming a part of a worldwide program of depopulation. Because you cannot take the shot today and know what the results are. Back to the original point, and I'll let you comment. I don't want to take, too much of the time on this. But it takes 5 to 20 years, at least, for them to know what the long-term effect of the vaccination is. Now, this one is in particular very dangerous because the mRNA vaccination is new. It's never been this type of intervention, this type of experimentation on human beings. So I would be careful, sister, tying the struggle of our people to be present in the medical profession, in the medical world, with what's happening in the wickedness of this medical world and this medical profession. And it's not, I'll say this last point, it's not that we are against Western medicine. We're not believing in hocus pocus. What we're saying is, what are you giving us? What are the long-term effects? is this a vaccination like some of your other vaccination that will result in the forced sterilization or the sterilization of darker people of the planet? What are we really looking at? So I think we should be careful in that. I think we should tread lightly in that.
And I think that, to your point, I think that healthcare ethics has changed tremendously. And as someone that works in research, ethics is it's emphasized heavily. Everything we do goes through several reviews. There's the IRB, there's different approvals that need to be gotten. There's checks and balances at every checkpoint. And especially as a woman in color in research, I have a duty that if I saw something unethical going on with whether it's people of color, people of a certain race, or if they were doing something unethical, I would have a responsibility to be a whistleblower and to bring that to light. And so as someone that works in research, I've seen that I think that the ethics have really changed, and there are standards and things that are in place to make sure that Tuskegee never happens again. And there's too many of us that people of color in healthcare that aren't just going along with the program or aren't just there to allow people to do whatever they want in my community. I will be the first person to fight back if they tried to do something like that. But I felt as a healthcare worker, seeing the devastation that has happened from COVID-19 in not only in the medical community, but just seeing it for people of color, seeing what's going on and what's happened in the hospitals, seeing doctors of color get COVID-19 and not be offered remdesivir, and different injustices that have even happened currently. I felt that it's important that in order to help rebuild that trust and to move forward, that we should be interested in looking at the science. It's not just to say that we should just go and take it blindly, because there are some there are some different protocols for people that maybe if you're immunocompromised, you may not be able to take the vaccine. If you have certain allergies, you're not able to take the vaccine. And so I am for people being educated and making an educated decision regarding vaccinations. I have had almost all vaccinations as a healthcare worker. I have to have the flu vaccine every year. Of course, that is a different type of vaccine. However, the mRNA technology that BioNTech and Pfizer use for this vaccine has been used before in the development of other vaccines, particularly that of Ebola, Zika, and the research they're working on for an HIV/AIDS vaccine as well. And so going through the science, I feel like we can't just go based on the history, but not also look at the science. The research articles are there. Pfizer has published their findings. They've published their studies through their phase 1, 2, and 3 trials. Their last phase 3 trial is how they got that 95% confidence band, which has to do with the fact that they gave half of the people placebo, half the people the vaccine. It was a double-blind placebo-controlled study. Very similar to the one that I worked on, was actually the same thing. So I got to see the backhand part of doing that process. And they saw that between the people that received the vaccine after the second dose, because after the first dose, it's only 52% effective. But after the second dose, they saw that 95% of them did not develop COVID-19 symptoms as compared to those that received placebo. And so I think it's important to look at both the science, the history, but also to look at where the medical community has come and what's going on currently. I think that changes has been made. There has been improvements. And so, as you said, I really appreciate your point saying that we do have to differentiate conspiracy from what has actually happened and those that are actually woke to what is going on in the scientific community and in the medical community as well.
So let me say, because you're saying a lot. I want to unpack some of this. I want to go to Dr. Kismakia Corbett. and her interview that she did on CNN with Dr. Sanjay Gupta. Now, anyone can go and they can look this up. And I just want to read some of what she said in an interview. And this is very important. She said in the interview, she said, and this is who leads, she leads the coronavirus vaccine research at the National Institute of Health. She stated, when she was questioned on the vaccine, she said, what I can say is that the emergency use authorization is still experimental. So we know that this vaccine came to market because of the emergency use authorization. This was the same authorization that was used with the FDA when they approved, what was it, hydrochloroquine as a treatment for COVID-19 in the beginning, and they later retracted that to say that many people had become sick. Okay, let's put that note there. So she said it's experimental. It's still in the experimental phase. These emergency use authorizations are simply asking the FDA, with what we have right now, can this product be used in the most vulnerable of populations while we continue to gather data that will allow us to license it for everyone? So what they're saying is that this is experimental. Yes, we have data, but now when you look at the statistics of how long phase 1, how long phase 2, how long phase 3 is, you're talking about the difference from an average, I said earlier, of 5 to 20 years of taking these vaccines through those stages, as opposed to taking the vaccine through those stages in a matter of months. Now, when you talk about the medical world and the medical profession, this is the same medical world, medical profession, medical business that's responsible for the opioid epidemic, where doctors are now being prosecuted because they brought opioid to the market with highly addictive, recommending this drug to people who did not need the drug, knowing that the potential for them to become addicts would drive them back to the doctor so they can make more money. They just had a video now. It's not a conspiracy. It's very real, of a black doctor who was in the hospital complaining of racist treatment and being ignored because of the color of her skin. She's a doctor with a medical degree in the medical profession, dealing with other doctors, but she faced racism in the hospital. They transferred the woman to another hospital and she died. Now the medical profession is under scrutiny. Dr. Fauci did a hearing with the Congress. Dr. Fauci said and admitted in front of the U.S. Congress that there was racism in the medical profession because they were questioning whether or not the hospitals and the doctors were mistreating black people and brown people because of the color of their skin and letting them die during the COVID epidemic. The same government who we're saying has checks and balances in the way. When the pharmaceutical companies, and mind you, so this is not personal, these pharmaceutical companies are demonic. And when you look at who are the lobbyists, who give the most money to government, to those who make laws and make policy, it's the pharmaceutical companies. They're not lobbying for the health of the people. They're lobbying for profit. But the pharmaceutical companies, they had a vaccination that they were giving. That the vaccination, I have to find it. I'm gonna find it here in the next few seconds. 1 out of every 300 people that were receiving this, and I hate to say back, I'm gonna call this one a vaccination, but this one that we dealing with, this mRNA, is a intervention. It's not a vaccination. I'll say that, and I'm going to coin that. I'm going to drive that point home. Okay. They said that we can't continue to make vaccination. This is what they said to the lawmaker. They said because inherently there are dangers. So they said if we're gonna continue to make vaccination, then you have to give us complete immunity. So they gave them immunity against the long-term effects of the vaccination. They gave them the immunity against the effects of ventilators. This is not a system that's designed for the health of the people. You may be concerned with the health of the people. You may be an advocate for the people. But sister, we have to be honest. We don't sit in the high offices of government. We don't sit and make the decision for the CDC and the WHO. We don't make those decisions for the pharmaceutical company like Pfizer. And we would be, it wouldn't be wise for us to put and this is what we're doing. We're putting ourselves between the pharmaceutical industry and our people and representing this experimentation that they're bringing to the market. This is what we're saying. That you can't find out what it's going to do by being part of the medical profession, because we're not that high up on the echelon to know what's happening. But I just read to you the doctor that's sitting in the room with them saying, he said, this is experimental. We're not sure what it can do. Well, don't experiment on our people. Well, we're going to give it to the most vulnerable. Wait a minute. Don't give it to us when you don't know what it can do to us when we are already suffering. That's not a conspiracy. That's not beyond the science. We are already suffering. So now you experiment on us out of what? Out of fear. Out of fear. But what we know, the statistical data says that 99% of the people who get COVID-19 survive. I have an aunt. My aunt got COVID-19 on November the 21st, my birthday. The call I got was she was in the hospital being sedated with COVID-19. She has emphysema. A week before that, they told her that her lungs were at end stage in emphysema. When she got COVID-19, she also caught pneumonia. So she's sedated on a ventilator. She has emphysema, pneumonia, and COVID-19. 2 days ago, I just talked to my aunt in the recovery room for COVID-19. She's recovering. She didn't have the vaccination. China seems to be doing very well. China doesn't have a vaccination. Africa seems to be doing very well. They're not using the mRNA vaccination. If we're going to deal with the science and look at the science, let's look at the science. What we are saying is, oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Let's look at that too. Let's look at why China, some African countries, and a lot of South American countries do not need a vaccine. It's because they follow the guidelines set out by their government. They have a collective society that actually follows the rules, that actually supports each other, that actually supports their healthcare system. Here in the United States, the vaccine was the holy grail we waited for because nobody wanted to wear a mask in public. Nobody wanted to not have social gatherings. Nobody wanted to follow the science. Everybody wanted to do whatever they wanted to. And so now no one wants to take a vaccine either. We're seeing the devastation of what that looks like, of what it looks like when everybody does what they want, when everyone just follows their own opinions.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. I understand it. But Cuba has a treatment. Cuba and the doctors in Cuba were exported to Italy and other European countries with their treatment. They didn't use the vaccination, the mRNA vaccination.
They didn't need to.
When you look at these, say it again.
America needed the vaccination. We have the highest
No,
incidence
but
of
see, this is the
COVID-19
fear.
in the
If
world.
let's do. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, you go ahead.
No, look at it, because I really want to get into what you're saying, because this is critical. Because if people feel like they need the vaccination, then they ignore all of the other treatments that are out there. Now, if COVID-19, I'm gonna take this back, and then we're gonna go forward. If COVID-19 cannot necessarily kill you without comorbidities, if the comorbidity is diabetes, if it is high blood pressure, if it is heart disease, if it's obesity, then it seems to me that the focus should be on strengthening the immune system and the health of the individuals, and investing and teaching individuals to better their health and their immune system. Vitamin D. I got what you're saying. I talked to a doctor, or not a doctor. I talked to a philanthropist. Her name was Eva Kaufman. Anybody can look this up. Eva Kaufman. She was in New York, a white woman. She said to me back in March or April of last year, she said, Tremicus, I am working with the former Surgeon General of Puerto Rico. I can't recall his name right now. She said, we are working on a treatment for COVID-19 that involves high doses of what she called sunlight, vitamin D. She said they use this to treat certain cancer cells. She said that I believe if we can get the government to give us, as they did for Pfizer, the emergency use authorization, we could bring this to the market, and it could be an effective treatment for people just using the light of the sun, the vitamin D. There are treatments out there beyond the vaccination. Because here's the deal. Right now, in Europe, they have the vaccination. They've been using the vaccination. But they're saying in Europe that the virus has mutated. And they're not sure if the vaccination will work. Here's my point. We don't want to accept a vaccination, not just because we're anti-vaxxers. I think that's a media term. You are anti-vaxxer, right? And it sounds all diabolical. No, what we're saying is don't give me something that you've been experimenting on, or don't use me as your experimentation. If you're going to give me something that's going to heal me, give me something that's going to heal me. Now, people don't want to social distance. People don't want to wear a mask. That's a different story. But they have ways to enforce that. But that is no excuse. That is no reason for them to bring in a virus that potentially can harm people, that can potentially, listen, the United States government, do you know why the foreign nations don't want to accept medical help from the United States government and the American oligarchy? It's because they have traditionally brought in experimentation and death to other countries in the name of the medical profession. It's not necessarily that a doctor is bad. Everybody's not evil and diabolical. We're not foolish. But if the doctor, who's a good person, is delivering to us a vaccination or a treatment that can harm or kill us, hey, doc, we can't accept that. We need our virologists, we need our immunologists, we need our scientists, we need our chemists to look at what they're giving to us and examine it to make sure that this is not going to bring us potential harm. That's all we're saying. I'm gonna stop right there. I got a lot. I got a lot here. But I don't want to. I want to make sure we have a good conversation and dialogue.
Oh yes, of course. I think it's going great. I really I'm learning a lot, but also I think that it is important to us to all do our own research as well, and to really determine if the vaccine is right for you. I know that it's what a lot of people have been waiting for, but if you do not want to take a vaccine, I would strongly urge you to follow the guidelines, to not to not go places without a mask, to not gather in large gatherings, to help stop the spread.
I think we should help stop the spread. But I had to go. I had to say this. What the people are waiting for is a cure. What the people are waiting for is a treatment. They're not sure. I read the interview from Dr. Kidley. They are not sure that this is going to work. Here you are taking a genetically modified. Now, in the history of vaccinations, and you know this, right? So this may be education for some, but not for you. They normally take a deadened virus, a weakened virus, and they put that in these vaccinations. They inject that in your body. So they'll take a weakened measles, they'll take a weakened chickenpox, right? And when you get the vaccination, they inject that in your body. And then the body is supposed to build up now from fighting this immune cells, right? Build up an immunity so that if the virus itself, if the measles come, if the chickenpox come, now my body is built up an immunity. That's not what this does. This experimentation, for brothers and sisters who don't know, this is very critical to understand. This is biotechnology combined with the pharmaceutical technology together. This M in the mRNA vaccine, it is a messenger. It's sending a message to your body, saying for your body.
This is so. Messenger RNA is a component of protein synthesis. So your DNA codes for proteins essentially, but your DNA cannot leave the nucleus, so that it sends out messenger RNA, which is essentially ribonucleotides, essentially that will then code for protein synthesis. And so what this vaccine does is that it codes for the proteins, the spikes that are on the coronavirus. It's called a coronavirus because it looks like a sun, because it has these spikes on the surface of it. And so what it's doing is that it's producing the surface proteins of the COVID-19 virus. Instead of giving you the whole weakened virus, what they've done through biotechnology is that they've been able to look at the genome, sequence it, and these are all things that I've studied: genome sequencing, being able to use a PCR to replicate several copies of just a segment of the COVID-19 virus DNA. And that's going to code, that messenger RNA now codes for the proteins on the surface of it, which will then help create an immune response. And so essentially the goal of it is to boost your immune system by introducing you to the outside surface proteins of the COVID-19 virus. And so that if you are exposed to it, then you will then have the protection. Your body will be like, I recognize this, I know what to do. But I know that that's from the scientific community, and I know you probably.
So I just want to break it down, and you tell me if I understand it right. So it tells your body to create the enemy, to prepare itself for the enemy.
Yes, it essentially tells your immune cells to then. Yes. That's simply my point. This is new to the biological makeup of human beings. This is not traditionally how my body is older than the scientists, and it's older than the experimentation. And my body, and I want to go back to something, because coronavirus is not new, but I want to come back to that. My body has developed a system in and of itself that tells it how to protect itself from disease, from sickness, from virus, right? This is introducing to the body in an experimentation a new way outside of our biology, our natural way of fighting virus. Is saying they're saying we're gonna try this. We never did this before. We're gonna try something new. We're gonna see how it works. We're gonna have your body create the enemy of itself
so they can learn how to fight it. What's the potential to that if it goes wrong? See, this is what I'm saying. See, the medical profession is asking us, and unfortunately, our black medical professionals are asking us to accept something that they don't have an answer for. They don't know. I just read from Dr. Kizzy, who sat in the laboratory to help create this quote unquote I'm gonna call it an intervention. I keep calling it an intervention. I'm not gonna call it a vaccination. She said, we don't know. We're taking the trial phase into the general population. Now let me ask a question. Why is it necessary? Absolutely. If I know coronavirus is killing a lot of people, I know people are tired of being in their home. I get all of the psychological factors that are involved. But the death rate is barely 1%. It's 1% is a lot when it's my mama, my daddy, my sister, my brother. I'm not downplaying that. But you got time. Now, this is not the first coronavirus. COVID-19, you know this. The coronavirus has been around for thousands of years. They've never been able to come up with a treatment, a vaccine for coronavirus in any of its forms. That's science. That's fact.
Right.
So now, all of a sudden, in the shortest period of time, you're able to come up with one, and we're to trust that. No. We can't trust. We cannot trust. And I just want to get straight to the point on this. We cannot trust a government, a medical profession, not you, Shanna, not you, the National Institute of Health and those who run it. We cannot trust Bill Gates. We cannot trust WHO and these other organizations who have traditionally experimented and killed our people. We cannot trust people who come up with a memorandum for depopulation for third world nations and darker people of the earth, talking about calling. This is actual fact. NSSM 200. Anyone, go look it up. It's not a conspiracy. National Security Memorandum 200. It talks about the depopulation. It talks about the methods of depopulation. It talks about vaccination that acts as a sterilization. We can't trust this. That's our issue. Why can't we trust it? Because historically, they have shown that when we trust them, they kill us. They kill us through the medicine. They experimented in Tuskegee. You know, with 600 black men they experimented on in Tuskegee, giving them placebos, telling them they were treating them, but they weren't treating them because they wanted to see how the disease ran its course. Now I want to go back to what they said, the French doctor. They wanted to experiment in Africa because they were trying to figure out the coronavirus, which they still haven't figured out. And they wanted a population that they can experiment on that would give them little resistance. Now we have replaced our brothers on the continent, our sisters on the continent. We have replaced our brothers and sisters in Central and South America, black and brown people in this country who unfortunately are disproportionately being hit by COVID-19. But now we'll say this, they had some new numbers come out the other day that we were recovering at a faster rate than any other people now. They ain't talking about that though. I think that an atmosphere of fear is being created to force an agenda down the people's throat that has nothing to do with treating us for COVID-19. And we can't afford to wait 20 years from now to find out. Do you know how long the experimentation for the Tuskegee experiment lasted, sister? It lasted 40 years. 40 years. It killed, I believe, 28 black men, caused many more to lose their minds. 60, I think it was 60 of their wives that were also affected with syphilis. And not only that, their grandchildren, some of the grandchildren even came up with syphilis as a result of this 40-year experiment because they wanted to know how the disease worked. Now they're trying to figure out why isn't COVID-19 ravaging Africa and the African won't let them in with their vaccination. Those are our brothers and sisters in Africa. We are the same people with the same genetic makeup. And now they're using this fear and this need to get back to normal. So many of us, and they're not done. In Europe, they've already said, if you don't take the vaccination, the children can't go to school. They had a news article the other day telling people, now these are the same employers, I want you to just do the logic, who were allowing employees to work from home. And business was fine. Now, I'm a business owner. I know that if I can get you to work from home and I don't have to pay office rent, I don't have to pay utilities, right? But I can get the same services done, but you do it from the comfort of your own home, and that bill is taken away from me, I gain. I gain. But now they're saying, well, if you don't take the vaccination, then you can't work for us no more. We have grounds to fire you. But these are the same corporations that could allow you to work from home unless you were an essential worker. There's a serious game being played on the people. And I think we would be wise if we look deeper into what's happening, because all that they say that's going on, they're not being truthful. They're not being truthful, Sister Shanna. There's a lie being told. And we have to be very careful. Do I believe that we should do something about it? Yes, I do. But I also believe that other treatments outside of the mRNA vaccination that can be taken that will strengthen our immune system, that will help us to fight against COVID-19, even changing of our diets would not only help us against COVID-19, but it would help us against obesity. It would help us against diabetes. It would help us against high blood pressure, all of the sicknesses and the disease. How come they don't have an effort to eradicate food deserts in our community? And brothers and sisters, when I say food desert, I'm not just talking about they're not growing food. I'm talking about the unhealthy, processed, genetically modified food that we're picking up in our grocery stores and markets right in our own neighborhoods. Why is there not an effort to get rid of food wastelands where you feeding off Wendy's and McDonald's and Kentucky Fried Chicken? Why isn't it an effort to help end the comorbidities if they're really worried about what's affecting our community? Because what made us susceptible to the disease is not the disease itself, but the comorbidities that we suffer from because of our poor health. Read Dr. Kidney. This is my last point on this. Dr. Kidney, go look at the article on Dr. Kidney tweets. As she was working on this vaccination, she said, this is her words, that she will not rule out that COVID-19 is being used as a genocide against our people. Now, I keep bringing her name up because this sister is so important. Dr. Fauci touted her. Kamala Harris, the elect vice president, praised her. But when you look at that sister's tweet, she talked about how doctors were allowing our people to die in the hospital. She talked about how she believed that she would not rule out that COVID-19 was a genocidal program against our people. And though she's quiet, she ain't saying much now. She deleted those tweets and she's staying away from that conversation. I would love to be able to sit in a private room with her and have a conversation with her, because you know what she didn't do? When I listened to the interview that she did with CNN, in my humble opinion, I think anybody can go listen to that interview, and this is my opinion. She was not a strong advocate pushing for us to go and run out and get this vaccination. She said we had every reason not to trust.
And we do. And
And I
so
took that to heart.
that brings us just to my last point, or just to my last question to you. We just have 5 minutes left, so this will kind of just be a quick little wrap up. But what can the medical community do, or do you think the damage is done? Is there anything that the medical community
No,
can do
no.
as that
The
kind of
Honorable Minister,
to kind of repair that damage that's been done?
the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said it very plainly. He said that our virologists, our immunologists, our doctors need to come together, and they need to do one or two things. One, we need to come up with our own treatment. We can study what's happening in Cuba. We can study what's happening in other countries, particularly Cuba, because Cuba's done well all around the world, and they will be happy to help our people. They can advocate for that treatment. Cuba is under embargo. That's why the treatment can't come into the country. They can do that. They should study. Our medical professionals should study this mRNA vaccination in depth and in detail outside of the emotion. If it's an experiment, it's an experiment. Tell us that. We don't know what's going to happen with this. We hope that it's going to work. But before you take it, brother and sister, let us do our due diligence. But they can't come and just tout to us, because Margaret Sanger did that. Margaret Sanger, in pushing Planned Parenthood, she advocated for her people to go to the Black spiritual leaders and the medical professionals to talk to Black people, because we would be more trusting. Our medical doctors, they have to be wise. Our medical professionals have to be wiser. And this is not personal, but they have to look now. Don't ignore the history. Don't come to us toting the same line, hook, line, and sinker that the health organizations are giving. Listen, let me tell you something. I did a study myself before they announced to the public that COVID-19 was disproportionately affecting Black people. Go back to the beginning. You said we only got 5 minutes. Golly.
2 minutes.
Okay. But they weren't reporting what it was doing to our people. There was a question that was asked to Donald Trump and his team, and that's when Dr. Fauci came out on a Friday and told that it was disproportionately affecting Black people and that they had already studied it, but they had not put provisions in the way to help our people. So we can't trust them. Our medical professionals have to think with their own mind. They have to think independently. They have to do their own research. And they have to deliver that information to our people factually so that we can have, and they got to study other treatment and offer that to us as a people so that we can get better. Because only 14% of us are even saying that they trust and will take the vaccination. And they got a long way to go to get to 100.
Right.
So thank you, sister. I'm sorry if I took too much time.
Great. I've really, thank you so much, Brother Tremikas, for coming on. I've really enjoyed this conversation. It's been very enlightening. And I think that now we could all go out and make sure we do our research and our own due diligence and see if we are still open to it. But I hope that that damage can one day be repaired in the community. I will always be an advocate for the Black community in healthcare as a future physician and healthcare worker. And so I hope that I get to the level one day where I can make some of these decisions that will positively impact our community. But I just want to let you, with our 1 minute, just kind of give out your socials and just so that people know where they could find you.
Look, I gotta say that Brother Tremikas on all platforms: Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Brother Tremikas. But I want to acknowledge you, sister. I have to say this part. Having conversations like this, knowing that we have opposing views, having conversations like this is the beginning part of that. Because you open up your platform so that the information can be given to our people and they can make a decision. So thank you. I acknowledge you. I thank you for your love for your people. I thank you. I know that your heart is for your people. Please understand that. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Shanna. Glad to be on your show. And I pray that all of us go do our due diligence and research. Brother Tremikas on all platforms, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Love y'all. Peace, love, light, blessings, all those good things. Oh, and the Phoenix LOC, PHX LOC. Please go follow us. We got a Community Grow Day coming up this Sunday, Shanna, at 9 o'clock. So come on out, grow food with us. We not just dealing with this knowledge of it, the science, so we also looking at how we grow our own healthy food to repair our own body. So thank you, sister. Thank you for all of this.
And you could find me both on Instagram and YouTube as the MD Queen. And so thank you guys for joining, everyone that signed on to the live. I saw we had quite a few faces. Hi, everybody. Thank you guys for being here. I hope you guys continue the discussion. The live will be posted on both our Instagrams as well as YouTube, so you could go check it out afterwards. Continue the discussion, continue to do your research. And yeah, I hope everybody does make their own informed decision, and you know, we could get rid of this virus and we could heal our community. That's the ultimate goal right now. So thank you so much, Brother Tremikas, for being on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, my sister. Love you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.